Welcome to Santos on Sports. As usual, alongside my good friend Chris, I am Paul Santos. We're happy to be sponsored by Scotty's Pub, located at 202 Pleasant Street in Fall River. Citywide glass with not one, not two, but three locations to serve you at 425 State Road, Dartmouth, and additional locations in Fall River and Taunton. Lakeville Athletic Club, 325 Bedford Street in Lakeville, Massachusetts, where you can pursue tennis, pickleball, and more. And our brand new sponsor, attorney John Seed, former quarterback of the New Bedford Whalers, and he is a practicing attorney, criminal defense, 156 8th Street in New Bedford, and you can get more details by going to johnseedlaw.com. Okay, now we've had a chance to digest this whole Celtic thing. I know it's been talked about, but oh my God, what happened and where do we go from here, Chris? Where do we go from here with this Celtics team?
Well, I think we go in the direction of trying to keep the nucleus right where they want it, and then take that nucleus and say, what can we add to it? Now, if they take a couple of pieces and move them and find something else, okay, I understand it. Bradley Beal's a big name that's being mentioned right now, a good friend of Jason Tatum. Is he supposed to come on in and do the job? That's a possibility at the guard. But at the same time, I don't see you getting rid of Tatum. I don't see you getting rid of Brown. I don't see you getting rid of Robert Williams. Even last night with the draft, I've heard Pritchard's name being mentioned as trade to move up to the first round. They didn't do it. I heard Grant Williams' name mentioned to be trade to move up to the first round. It didn't happen at all. They stay at 53 and they pick J.D. Davidson, guard out of Alabama. So another point guard for the Boston Celtics, trying to get another kid that they can look into at 6'3", a little project down the road. They like his athleticism. They like what they can get. And as Brad Stevens said, it's someone we can invest in, a lot of time into. We can help him grow. He's very young, very explosive. So something that they would like to see maybe down the future to have him. So we saw Paul, Jaylen Brown bring the ball up. We saw Jason Tatum bring the ball up. We saw Marcus Smart bring the ball up. So I don't know if they want that one person who brings the ball up and then find the other guys along the way. So that looks like the direction they're going in. Beal's a big name. Let's see what happens with him in the next week or two to see if he actually says, hey, I want to be a Celtic. So think about the guys that they had, Paul. Kyrie Irving, Kemba Walker, Isaiah Thomas, obviously Marcus Smart. These are a lot of the guys that they've had. They've gone in that direction with that point guard, and they're back at it again with a guy like J.D. Davidson. Interesting to see if Bradley Beal becomes a Boston Celtics very soon.
Well, I know Tatum is good friends with him, and sometimes, if the big star in your team wants to have a certain guy, that can be helpful. So we'll have to see how that all pans out. But you got the number right there at the bottom of the screen. Give us a shout at 774-762-6234. We're going to talk about the Bruins in a little bit. We're also going to talk about the Red Sox. We figured we'd start at least for a few minutes with the Celtics. I know people have pretty much talked that out and everything else. But I got to tell you, Chris, I'm still disappointed now. You can say, well, they're young. Maybe they'll get over the hump the next time and all that. I got to tell you, that Eastern Conference is no picnic. I mean, you take a look at Milwaukee, right? They had their second best player. Middleton didn't even play. Now, let's say next year you got Middleton there with Giannis, and then, of course, maybe they pick somebody up. Maybe they make a trade or something like that. Brooklyn is falling apart, but, as long as Kevin Durant is in your conference, we don't know where he's going to go, okay? Even Miami, right? I mean, Butler took the Celtics to the 7th game leading his team. So the idea that you're just going to be the best team in the East and you're going to get back to the finals, I mean, you don't even know that. And you had them up 2 games to 1. 2 games to 1. You had them on the ropes. Yeah, it was right there for the taking, right? And Jaylen Brown, your best player. Hey, look, I don't want to beat up on the kid, but he just doesn't seem to have that clutch gene. I mean, he couldn't give you anything. Now, he might have been tired. He might have been injured. We don't know that. At least Jaylen Brown gave you 34 points. Al Horford, he's like desperate to get a ring at the age of 35. But Tatum, he just didn't give you what he should have given. And again, you can say he's young and all that, but you're up 2 games to 1 in the finals. You don't know if you ever get another opportunity, I mean, look what happened to who's that quarterback from Miami that never won? I know I can't think of it. Dan Marino. Yeah. I was like, he got there the first. He went to the Super Bowl his first year in the league. Never went back. Now, the likelihood of that happening with this group, I think they have a good chance to get back. But I don't even know. They had them 2-1. They should have won that series.
Yeah, it's an opportunity that you obviously let get away. It's an Eastern Conference, as you talked about. Philly's probably going to try to find a way to get Embiid some help along the way, too. So that's another team that we got to be worried about as well. So there's some additions that you need. But I think there was 4 key factors in this, Paul. And I'm going to start with turnovers. I'm going to start with interior scoring. I'm going to go to depth. And then I'm going to go to rebounding. I thought those were the 4 big things that the Celtics really lacked down the stretch during those last games that really kind of hurt them. Obviously, turnovers being number one. It was a huge issue the entire series. It really hurt them. Whether you're young, whether you're inexperienced, whatever it was, that was pretty big. 2 was the interior scoring. Only took like 19 shots per game inside. You know, Williams was kind of banged up. Tatum had the shoulder thing. So there was some kind of things going on with that. The depth, you know, did you see a lot more than what we thought, Paul? I thought going into the series, they had better depth than Golden State. But they got into like 6 or 7 men rotation and they just stood there. And they just left it with those guys. And then 5, maybe 1 and 2. Think about White, Grant Williams, and Pritchard. 40 minutes combined. That was it. You know what I mean? While the Golden State kind of mixed and matched on that and did a better job actually using their bench when they were down. So I thought that was something too. And then finally the rebounding, you know, good on defense, but not enough that you want to finish your steps. You want to finish your chances to get rebounds and go right back up and get some easy points, or find a way to get some quick rebounds, transition some basketball and out. So I think it comes down to whether they get that point guard in Beal, but I think they got to find something still interior. I don't know if Horford's going to be around. I don't know if Tice is your man. I know Williams is your man, Robert Williams. Now can they get something else to go with that? So look to see if another big man becomes available also. So those were my 4 keys there. Yeah, okay, Tatum didn't have it, you know, this year down the stretch. Looked good during the regular season, looked good in some playoff games, but not enough to, you know, win it. Yep, they represented the East. Still a young team. You know, you can compare to certain guys what Curry did when he was that age, what LeBron did when he was that age, Michael Jordan. You know, you can put all that. I'm not saying that that's what we should do, but I just don't think you should get rid of the nucleus of this team. Keep them together, build around it, get better, get stronger, and work on those teams, because they're not going to get rid of Giannis. They're not going to get rid of Middleton. They're not going to get rid of Embiid. They're probably not going to get rid of Harden. They're not going to get rid of Jimmy Butler. They're not going to, you know, so that's what you got to stay with. You got to mix and match. You got to create your team to stay with the Eastern Conference and get back to where you belong. Hopefully experience puts them over the top next year.
Yeah, I'm certainly not advocating breaking them up. I don't think that's a good idea at this particular point. But, you know, I do want to point out, and again, I don't want to harp on one thing, but, you know, I mean, you know, he lost the game 103-90. It's not like, you know, Golden State scored 130 points or something. So defensively, they were hanging in there. It was offensively they fell apart. They just couldn't score. I mean, Tatum wasn't hitting anything. He only had 13 points. I mean, all year he's 28, 30, this and that. I mean, Jaylen Brown seemed to be more of a clutch guy than him. Now, Jaylen Brown had 34 points, but both Brown and Tatum had 5 turnovers apiece. So as you said, that was a big thing. But, you know, if you just could have like scored a little bit more, and how about at the foul line in one of those games where, you know, Tatum was missing foul shots, and then, you know, the Celtics ended up losing by 10 points, and they missed all these foul shots. They could have been.
And how about Paul, the lack of one quarter? Every game it looked like there was one quarter that the Celtics just didn't show up.
Exactly.
Whether it was the third, whether it was the fourth, whether it was the first or the second. In all those games, they always had that one quarter where you sat back and you scratched your head and said, where is this team right now? And then they would come back and play pretty good. But you can't give up a quarter in the NBA against great teams as Golden State is.
All right. A quick shout out here to, let's see, Scott Borowitz is on today. Thank you very much for looking in. If you want to give us a shout and give us your opinion on this or whatever else we're going to get to, which we are going to get to a few other subjects as we proceed along, give us a call at 774-762-6234. Lucas Andrade looking in on Fall River Reporter. Thank you very much for looking in today on Santos on Sports. And let's see, Michael Consaccio, Mikey Kahn, one of our regulars on today, says he always enjoys the show. Now, let's see. He says, what's going on, my guys? As I stated before, points in the paint and turnovers. Well, Chris was talking about that. Chris is right there. Bench rotation went to 7 or 8 guys, while, let's see, Golden State was 10 or 11 deep, sharing this 174 turnovers by Brown and Tatum during the course of the playoffs. Yeah, so when you say it like that, wow, that's a lot.
Oh, it absolutely is. And that was my number one on the list of the turnovers that they really have to put together something different this next season and learn from that and say, hey, we got to simplify it. We got to make it a little bit easier for ourselves. And Mikey Kahn was right on it with the numbers. I didn't get that depth into that, but he was right on it, what it was. So, you think about the draft that just happened yesterday. They went all the way down to number 53. They took a bat and they swung for the fences and they said, okay, we're going to follow this kid from Alabama, a 5-star recruit, played 1 year at Alabama, but hopefully we can develop him. So Brad Stevens has a lot of encouragement with his coaching staff to say, hey, I think we can make this kid grow up. And when you only play 1 year in college and you come right out, again, young, and try to learn your system and get it going. So that's what Udoka has. Kid's only 6'3". So you're trying to, again, find someone that's not going to turn the ball over as much as the Celtics did. Thought it was their number one issue, definitely. Actually, all playoff long.
There are a couple of rumors floating around while we're finishing up here on the NBA. Yeah. What's going to happen to Kevin Durant? Because Kyrie Irving wants out of Brooklyn. And, I remember thinking, wow, they're trying to put together one of those super teams. Well, that didn't work at all with this crew. I mean, James Harden, he was a disaster. Kyrie Irving, I mean, he's just a pain in the neck and never could get it together. Didn't want to play the home games and all this stuff. And then, you have obviously Kevin Durant. I mean, he didn't really play that great against the Celtics. He was missing a lot of shots. For whatever reason, it didn't all come together. So now there's rumors floating around. Hey, maybe Kevin Durant's going to go to Dallas. Wow, go to Dallas and play with Luka? Wow, that's going to be kind of tough. Then there was a thought. I was just driving home here, and I put on talk radio in Boston. They were talking about, would you make a trade Jaylen Brown straight up for Kevin Durant? I'm thinking to myself, well, Kevin Durant is better than Brown right now, but not for much longer. You know what I mean? So those are kind of like dangerous things to be floating around out there. But you got to wonder where Kevin Durant is going to end up, because if they're going to blow that whole thing up, I don't think he's going to want to hang around there.
Well, I think it starts with Kyrie Irving first. That's the key. Where's he going to go? He's even talked about going back with LeBron. I thought he had a bad situation with LeBron. Now he wants to go to the Lakers and maybe play for LeBron. I mean, I don't know all that situation. So 2 things, Paul. You wait and see what happens. Then Durant says, okay, what are you giving me to help me? If he gets what he likes, he stays and everything. He works on it and figures out if Brooklyn can manage it. Or I'm not getting what I want. So now what is it for me? I want to win. I want championships. Now where am I going to go? Is Boston a good fit? Is Dallas a good fit? And you just go down the order and you continue from there. So I think it's a decision of, let's start with Irvin, what he does, and what the organization is telling Kevin, what they want to do for him. Or, hey, take it. We're going to go in another direction. Now you can leave and go where you want to go, which, in today's game, they all want to do because they want that championship.
All right. Give us a shout at 774-762-6234 here on Santos on Sports. Paul and Chris hanging out with you as we lead into the weekend. Going to be a beach day tomorrow, and Sunday, I don't figure you for a beach guy. You a beach guy?
I am not a beach guy. I'm a home guy and stay by the pool guy.
Okay.
And I was hoping that tomorrow, since it was nice, I'd be with one of these, Paul.
Oh, yeah.
Celebrating like this.
Yeah.
The Boston Celtics. But obviously, I have to put this aside for another time and use it. So I will not be having that cigar in the victory of the Celtics, but maybe I'll use it for another occasion.
Now, I want to know, when did you buy that cigar? When it was 2-1 Celtics?
Well, I had a couple stashed away even before the series began, so I still have one hanging around just in case I needed it. Unfortunately, I'm not, so I'll save it for maybe a victory in some golf or I'll save it for just a nice casual evening when it cools down a little bit from a hot, warm day.
Now, let me tell you, or let me ask you, did you have two of them there just in case they won? You had one for me put aside?
I sure do.
All right.
I sure had one there. So
You're going to have to
anytime we
wait.
need it, we'll have to make sure we come back and get it. But right now, they'll be back to the side off again, and we'll go from there.
And by the way, this includes like any of the teams win, like if the Red Sox win or the Patriots win or the Bruins win, I guess we can light one up then, even though it's a Red Auerbach thing, because otherwise we might be waiting a long time if we just wait for one team. But anyway, 774-762-6234. Let us know what you'd like to talk about. What about before we switch to the other topics here in the other sports? What about Marcus Smart? A lot of people, people seem to have a love-hate relationship with Marcus Smart. People are like, well, maybe I ought to trade him. I'm like, I don't know. Like, he does bring you a lot. You know what I mean? He really is good defensively. I mean, he throws himself on the floor and he argues with the referee and he storms off and he has those temper tantrums and all that. But I don't know. It seems like the upside is better than the downside. What do you think?
Well, yeah, it's about his offense of what he can help out in. And I think other teams are looking at that to say, hey, we need some point production, not just defensive player of the year. It's nice that he has that. He gives you the hustle. He gives you the camaraderie. He gives you the guard that can maybe make some passes to a point. But at the same time, I don't think the Celtics are looking at it as, hey, we don't want all that from you. We want the defensive specialist. We want someone that can really create the turnovers, and we'll let Brown, Tatum, and the other guys do what they need to do. So someone that can run the ship. I think that's what they want out of Marcus Smart. Do you think he did enough of that this year? He got him to the Eastern Conference Finals and win it, and then got to the championship. So you got to give him some kind of credit there.
All right, we got a few comments coming in here. Mike Consatio also says Kyrie is going nowhere. Do you think he's going to give up $30 million? He has lost $17 million from this year. Only way is to sign and trade. Mm-hmm. And then he also says he can't swim, so he needs life jackets if he goes swimming. And then Don Silva says LeBron said he's waiting to see what the Lakers do first. So, like you said, a lot of moving parts going on in this year's NBA to see what's going to happen and who's going to go where.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's that kind of time when free agency comes right out and everybody says, okay, where are we going with this? So it's a lot of talk. It's a lot of GMs getting together. It's a lot of sign and trade, as Mike said, and a couple other decisions. But, I think it'd be more of people want to take on, one, the contract of Irvin, and two, his demeanor, Paul. Do you want that baggage with you? And we've seen what Kyrie brings to the table. We've seen him at his best, and we have definitely seen him at his worst. So what teams want that?
I got to tell you, I was at game 6, and my son was working, of course. And, at the end of the game, I was down there watching everything. And, I saw obviously Steph Curry holding up the thing, which was, a great Hall of Fame and everything. But Draymond Green, boy, he was just enjoying every second of this, and he's got his hand out like this, and he's waving the crowd on and everything else. I'm looking at this guy, I'm saying, man, this guy. And there were a lot of people from California there that were cheering on. They had their Golden State outfits on, but it was a real spectacle. So there's a guy, right? You just kind of love to hate the guy because he's so irritating. But then he was there, like really, like, oh yeah, you guys thought it was all over, huh? 2-1, and you're saying F me and all this stuff, and now it's like little bulletin board material. And next thing you know, there he is celebrating right there on the parquet floor.
Yeah, well, I mean, he has the right to, and he's got some backup besides this championship. Look at the ones he's won in the past. And yeah, he's had some great players to play with. We've talked about this on, I think, the last show. Is he a Hall of Famer? He will be because of his championships. But if you went by stats, you'd sit back and say, well, maybe not. He only averages, single digits in points, maybe 8 rebounds and so forth. But he's a good defensive player. He's won some accolades toward that too. So, it kind of gives you both ways. A love-hate relationship. You'd love to have him on your team, works hard, can trash talk with the best of them, physical on the inside. But then when you play against them, you can't stand them, and you're dropping F-bombs right in front of his face because you just don't like him, and he's going to get under your skin. So, that's the typical kind of players. We've seen it before, even when Barkley played with Philly. Dennis Rodman, we can get some good names up there. Bill Lambier. There's a lot of different ways to play this game, Paul, and he plays it to the best of his ability. And he's got the backup with the championships behind them.
Let's see what Chris Santos thinks about this. As a comment here, Marcus Smart is not a true point guard. Coming out of Oklahoma State, he was a shooting guard. He's clearly a great defensive player, but the Celtics need a true point guard. There's a lot of people that are saying that. What do you think?
Well, they've gone with, like I said, Walker, Thomas, Irvin. They've tried. So they went to Smart, trying to convert him over there. Now, as a shooting guard, you would think he would be more explosive on the offense and be a better shooter. I don't know if Marcus Smart is really that great of a shooting guard. So maybe they're trying to transform him into something else. Defensively, one of the great talents in the NBA, no doubt about it. But is he a point guard? It's, too early to tell, maybe, with that 1 year under the belt when you're coming out of as being a shooting guard. So what did the Celtics do? Drafted a point guard once again. So I don't think they're happy with it. Maybe it's just an experiment with this guy, but they're trying to see if this is the way we're going to go. And Paul, we saw it in the championship. We watched Tatum bring the ball up. We watched Brown bring the ball up. We watched White bring the ball up. So it's just not, hey, it's Marcus Smart. We got him. He can control it. He'll bring it up. And we've seen turnovers for him as well. So, I don't think it's right now his job to hold on to.
All right, 774-762-6234. Give us a call here on Santos on Sports. Going to bounce around a little bit. We heard the news a few hours ago that Patrice Bergeron has decided to come back and play another year with the Boston Bruins. Okay, so I'm thinking, gee, that's great. I think that's great. They need a top line center. He still can do the job. Whether he's the first line center or the second line center, it's certainly a need that they have. And if he doesn't play, they got a big gaping hole there. So as a Bruins fan, I like it, But now I'm watching Colorado play, and I'm watching, Tampa Bay still tough. And you watch teams like Edmonton play, and I'm thinking, man, I don't know if the Bruins can keep up with some of these teams, the way they just play faster and faster, and the skill level and everything else. And the defense, the Bruins defense is, after you get past the first couple of guys, a little suspect, So it's great that Bergey's coming back, but if Bergy is coming back, you want him to come back to try to make a run for the cup before it's too late. And I don't know, I look at some of these teams, and it's pretty scary watching the talent and the depth and the skill that some of these teams have.
Yeah, and let's not talk about the age factor, Paul, because I think that's big too. Skills start to diminish just a little bit as obviously the years go on. So for Bergeron, it's a matter of, hey, I still got the captainship. I'm still a leader. Not sure if they waited to see what was happening in his mind with what they did with Cassidy and say, okay, now who's going to be another coach? So maybe they talked to him and said, well, this is the route we're going. You feel okay with this? How you feeling health-wise? That's another big thing. Remember, Marchand, hip surgery. You got McAvoy, Grzelcyk. Guys are going to be out start of the season, going to miss a couple of months. So a lot to tell for Patrice Bergeron coming up next year. They're going to need his leadership to corral these young guys up front and on defense to kind of hang in there early until they can get a lot of their studs back.
Yeah, and they always talk about when you get to Thanksgiving, you get a kind of a feel of who's going to make the playoffs already by then. Like 90% of the time, you can already tell. If the Bruins fall too far behind, they're going to be in trouble. I mean, last year, they got hot in January and February, and they were playing great hockey, and seems like they were winning every night, and they still ended up as a wild card. They still didn't end up, as one of the top three teams in their division. So, very, very competitive to make the playoffs now.
Yeah, it sure is. And you can see a lot of young, fast kids really working hard, especially in these last two series that I've seen with Edmonton, with Colorado, obviously with Tampa, and even the Rangers, another up-and-coming team too. Real fast, real skilled, and you're watching great hockey right now. Colorado up 3-1. Going to be tough to have our athletic trainer, back for another unless Tampa really goes on a run. So Colorado's looked pretty good, and they want to close it out tonight at home back in Colorado.
I will say this, if somebody can do it, I mean, Tampa Bay might be, it's 3-1 is very, very difficult, of course, as we're not going to win 3 in a row, especially against a team like Colorado. But, with the skill and the experience that they have, if somebody's going to do it, I wouldn't necessarily count them out. I know you're not. You talk about Marshawn, 2 hip surgeries, right? I
Yeah.
mean, if it's successful, great. But, like, for example, Tim Thomas had the hip surgery. He felt great. But then Tuukka Rask had one and he couldn't play after that. So
No,
I
and
hate to.
and supposedly Marchand's is like what Tuca's is. So it's going
Mhm.
to be interesting how he heals, and what it looks like might be different. Being a goalie wearing the heavy stuff to try to move compared to just skating and moving. So we'll see how that looks for Marchand when he gets back.
All right. We have a comment over here from Jay Rizzo. And, we're talking about Marshawn. He's kind of that guy that you really like when he's on your team, but he's an
Yeah,
agitator. And, of course, he's highly skilled. But if he's on the other team, you don't like him. Well, we got a comment here about Draymond Green. Now, Draymond Green doesn't have the
mhm,
same kind of skill as Marshawn has, but he is an
right.
irritant. And he says, I like Green because of how he messes with the players and the fans. And that's what I would do if I was a player. He likes that kind of player.
Well, I think every team. I wouldn't say every team needs one, but I think
Hmm.
every team likes to have one
Hmm.
because it's somebody that they can rely on in hockey would really creating havoc in front of the net, starting fights, physicality. And when the NBA, it's the same thing underneath and the trash talking and always being in someone's face and tripping in their ear. And you want the ball and you try to take it from all those little things that are just irritable that just people sit back and say, why does this guy do this? And they do it for a reason. So every team seems to have that kind of guy, and that's his specialty for Golden State, and he's won with it.
All right, I got a comment here from Don Silva. Maybe the Celtics picked up Davidson because Washington wants him so he can be involved in a Beal trade.
Listen, that's a great possibility. He was a 5-star recruit. He's only played 1 year for Alabama. Steven said we watched him a lot early, and then we watched him during that 1 year career. We like what we see. Now, does that mean they want to keep him, or does that want to say, hey, this guy's got some talent? We'll add that in a Beal with maybe a pick or something. Who knows? They gave up like first round to get White. That's why they weren't in the draft in the first round last night. So let's see where Brad Stevens wants to go with this.
All right, give us a shout at 774-762-6234. It's always a lot of fun talking sports right here on Santos on Sports. We're talking a little bit of Celtics. We're talking a little bit about the Bruins, and then we'll move on to the Red Sox. But, with Bergeron coming back, right, first thing that I thought of, and this is total speculation, right, total speculation. We didn't know if Bergeron was coming back, right? So kind of, okay, is he coming back? Is he not coming back? Next thing you know, Cassidy's gone, right? So Cassidy, he got picked up instantly by Vegas, and I think he's going to do great there because that's a
Mm-hmm.
great playoff team. They've been to the conference finals a couple of times. They had an off year. I bring Cassidy in. I mean, I think that's going to be a great fit, and I think he's going to do great over there. But in terms of the Bruins, Cassidy had the propensity for calling the team out and calling the players out, saying this guy's not doing this and that guy's doing that, and this guy did this, and you get on the young players and stuff like that. I wonder if Bergeron wasn't a big fan of Cassidy. I mean, that would never come out. I think those guys, I think Cassidy probably has enough respect for Bergeron, and Bergeron, being a classy guy that he is, would never disclose what happened behind the scenes. But you got to wonder, like, he couldn't decide whether he's coming back, and then they get rid of Cassidy, and then the next thing Bergeron's coming back. Now, it could have had nothing to do with it, but I don't know. I that's just my gut feeling that, hey, maybe there's something to that.
Wouldn't it be nice to be a fly on the wall to listen to
Yeah.
what Neely and Sweeney had to say about this whole thing, and whether they talk to Bergeron, who's your captain, and say, hey, this is what we're doing. What do you think? And try to get a little reaction out of him. So it's quite interesting to see, even though it wasn't like immediate. As soon as Cassie left, Bergeron says, oh, yes, I want back. It's kind of filtered its way a little bit. So, it came out today, and Cassidy's already been with Vegas for a week or two. So, I can't say it is that, but I'm sure they talk to one another and try to get information, as well as, who's the next candidate? Supposed to be like 4 or 5 guys in the running for head coach, which direction they want to go there. I wonder if they ask some of those guys to say, who would you like? This is who we're thinking. This is what we see.
Well, it happened with Udoka. They brought him in
Yep.
because they thought it was going to be a good fit, and he had coached these players before and all that
Yep.
kind of stuff. But you talk about it didn't happen right away. Hey, they could have done that on purpose. They made it look good. They said, okay, Cassidy's leaving, but we want to keep. Oh, then I'll stay. All right. Well, we're not going to announce it right now. Let's give it a couple of weeks. That way, it
Right.
makes it look like it's not connected. So, but yeah, as far as a fly on the wall, you've got to think. Bergeron's the captain of the team. He's been there for God almost 20 years. And the idea that they wouldn't at least talk to him about it, I think, is unfathomable. Can you just picture? And again, this is all speculation. I'm just stirring the pot. I have no information about this.
Sure.
But can't you picture them saying, hey, Bergy, what do you think about this? Hey, Cassidy was a good guy and everything, but gee, he's beating up these young players all the time, and he's doing this and doing that. And I think he's ran his course. And I mean, if you got him here, I'll probably just retire or whatever. But if you bring somebody in, maybe I'll come back another year or something like that. Hey, I have no idea if that's what happened, but. Can't you just picture that?
Yeah, I sure can, and I think these players who are former players, remember now, Sweeney was a former player, and so was Neely, so they know what it's about, and they know how to talk to one another and get along and figure out how they want to do this. So I'm sure they speak to them in a casual way to say, this is what we're thinking.
All right, give us a shout here at 774-762-6234 for Santos on Sports with Paul and Chris. Having a great time here talking sports on this here Friday afternoon. We're running into a nice, warm, sunny weekend, so it's going to be a lot of fun. And, Chris, we've mentioned before, is an educator, and I was just looking at the calendar, and your season is over, and now you get a little break, so I can see a little extra pep in your step over there at the school season's over.
Yeah, the wear and tear of a full season of school was over on Wednesday. Some school systems are staying a little bit longer. I know some got done today. I know even one system even goes to next week on Monday. So it's now time to rejuvenate for the summer and rejuvenate the batteries and then see what happens again come next September. So we take one day at a time right here and enjoy the great weather, play some golf and do some things around the house and get myself rejuvenated during this summer. So it's nice to be out and get refreshed.
Well, I saw that you were playing tennis for the Lakeville Athletic Club, and I thought I saw some hardware there. I was scrolling through my social media news feed, and I saw you standing there with some hardware. So that looked like that was good news there.
Well, that was actually the Scotty's Pub golf tournament.
Okay.
That was last week, and I spoke to Scotty, and he asked me, and of course our sponsor, to get a foursome together. So I ended up, getting a team, and we went out to the Swansea Country Club, and they sponsored, obviously, and we went out there, and we ended up winning the hardware. So we went back to Scotty's after the round was over, had ourselves a nice clam boil, and we ended up winning the tournament. So the picture came out with Scotty has a big trophy. It almost looks like the hot trophy with the big one there, and he was holding it up in the middle, and we had two guys on one side and two guys on the other. So it was a great day for a good cause, obviously for Scotty and what they do and some of the projects that he does to help out some kids. So that was very nice to see, and had a great turnout. And it was just a beautiful day to be golfing.
So let's set the record straight here. While the Celtics were falling flat on their face and blowing a 2-1 lead, Chris Santos was out there bringing home that big gigantic trophy. I think looked like you said, it looks like the Hart Trophy.
Well, that trophy will stay at Scotty's Pub.
Okay,
will get engraved on it. We got ourselves a little bit smaller one, but that's the one that we could take home. So that was nice. But every time we go to Scotty's, we can see that big one up in the glass cabinet, and we get to take a look at it. So hopefully someday, Paul, when me and you get a little closer to the fall and we start talking Patriots, maybe we can get over to Scotty's and check that out, and maybe do a couple of shows right from Scotty's Pub.
I would love to do that. I'm sure if I ask you, I'll say, Chris, can you point out to me where that trophy is? I'm sure you'll know where it is. You'll be able to say,
I can.
It's right over here. All right. Paul and Chris talking sports here on Santos on Sports. Give us a shout if you would like. And again, 774-762-6234. A little bit of a lull here. You had that whole thing with the Celtics and they just couldn't be able to talk. And now it's kind of like, okay, now we're just going to kind of regroup over here. Let's talk a little Red Sox here. While we were focusing on the Celtics, the Red Sox got on a roll. I think they went 16-4. in the month of June so far, and they're pitching. They had the lowest ERA since like 1905 or something during the month of June so far. So the Red Sox are kind of chugging along, and if the season ended today, they have these extra wild card berths. A month ago it looked like they were never going to be in the race, and now all of a sudden they're right there in a possible playoff spot. They really turned things around from when they were, what were they, 7-8 games under 500, something like that.
That is correct. And right now they are in third place in the East. They're 13 games back of the Yankees. They're only a half a game out of the wild card, I believe. 8-2 in their last 10, Paul. Let's give the Red Sox credit. When the Red Sox play some of the lesser teams, the under 500, the Red Sox take no prisoners. They go after them and they hammer them teams, the lesser teams. Now, in the East, the Red Sox are 7-14. Not a very good record right now. So that needs to pick up. This July, this month is huge for the Boston Red Sox. And here's why. 8 games with the Yankees, 8 games with Tampa Bay, 8 games with Toronto. Add Cleveland in there as well, who's number 1 in the Central Division right now. This is a major month for the Boston Red Sox. Let me tell you, because when you're 7-14 against the East right now, they got to find a way to turn it around and say, well, we've done this with the ERA. Yeah, but, when you're playing last place Oakland, last place Cincinnati, you were playing last place Baltimore, last place Seattle. You were playing some really low teams. But this July, this is a huge month if you are a Red Sox fan. If you want to see them turn their season around, this month right here, you better be watching, because they got the East, Tampa, Toronto, and the Yankees. You throw the Cubs in there for a series, and obviously I said Cleveland twice as well. So they're number 1 in the Central. Huge month for the Boston Red Sox.
Well, Don Silva just commented the Red Sox were 9-13 in April,
Yep.
and they turned it around after that. And so, it might be a combination of, well, they're playing weaker teams. Maybe it's also that they're playing a little bit better ball.
Yep.
So now they're on a little bit of a roll. They're feeling good. They're having confidence. Maybe this is the best time to start playing the teams in the East. But,
I think you find out what your pitching staff is. I think you find out what your bullpen rotation is. I think you find out what my starters are. Who can I bring off the bench? Pinch hit, all those things. And like I said, when they've played the more of the lesser teams, they've taken it to them. They're beating the teams that they're supposed to beat. Now it's the upper echelon. You're set in your things. Let's see them do the same thing now against these teams. If they do that, they are going to have a great month in July and get ready for the dog days of August and September.
Well, they say good teams, when they're playing the weaker teams,
Yep.
Sometimes teams that are not as good get sloppy and they start losing games to teams that they really shouldn't. But the Red Sox, hey, they took care of business against those teams.
Yes, they did. I went up on Monday night with my daughter. We went go see Detroit Tigers.
Okay.
So we took in a game. She wanted to go, found some seats. We went up. Sox look, again, as comfortable as can be. It was a beautiful night for baseball. They went out there once again, did their job. A pitcher in his first year, Winchkowski, comes out, does his job. Pavetta's looked better. So they're trying to find that bullpen, that lefty, that righty, get their closer. All the things that they want to do, they're trying to do it now. So when they come into this month, and they're on the road at Cleveland starting tonight for, I believe, 3, and then they start that Tampa, Toronto, and the Yankees. So be prepared, Red Sox fans. This is your time right now. This month of July is where you want to be if you're a Red Sox fan, watching them, because it's going to be a great July.
Well, it looks like a lot of fun. And, last year, it's always funny, like the Red Sox, they tend to sneak up on you like last year. And I love watching. I'll put it on. I'm like, oh, they won. Okay. Then I put it on again. Well, they won again, And the next thing you know, they get in the roll. That's why, people talk about the championships that they won. They won the 4 of them, of course, 2004, 2007, 2013, 2018, right? And I know I'm in the minority, but I really like that one in 2013. That's the year of the terrible bombing at the Boston Marathon. Yep. Johnny Gomes put the trophy at the spot on the thing and all that. That team wasn't supposed to do anything. That was a 500 team. They were kind of scrappy. And then they didn't even have a closer. They had closer by committee. And somehow they found Yui Hara. and Yui Hara would just throw an 89-mile-an-hour fastball and an 88-mile-an-hour split-fingered sinker. And he would just alternate back and forth, all in the head. What's he going to throw next? What's he going to throw next? And that team, I love, because I was watching that team, and it felt like nobody else was watching them, except that's what it felt like. I'm sure other people were watching them, but they win, and then they win again, and they win again, they win again. That's, like, where did this team come from? So I like it when they kind of sneak up on you. That happened a little bit last year, and then they had that terrific wild card game against New York, where the place, they say, people that were at the game, I wish I had gone to that game, because people say that Fenway was like unbelievable that night in that game. So, hey, when the Red Sox are doing well, you bring back a lot of nostalgia feeling about the Sox, and hopefully Fenway can be rocking again when we get to September.
Oh, yeah. Well, as you see, I'm an Orioles fan, and I have my Orioles shirt on.
Sorry to hear that.
So they've come up, they're trying to do their part, obviously, this year. But saying this is and I'm not a Yankee fan at all. And watching what they're doing right now, and can they sustain this momentum and continue? Because, boy, have they really put on a show early in Major League Baseball. Because the talk of the town right now in MLB is the New York Yankees. They're never out of it. They're never down. They've gotten some great pitching. They've picked up some players, and you go, wow, where did this guy come from? And just doing a lot. So everything's working for the New York Yankees right now. Now, can they continue to do this? It will be interesting to see. The Red Sox, like I said, they have to find out how great they are this month with Devers, Bogarts, JD, Verdugo, Story, all those guys in clutch situations when it comes to against those three teams, Toronto, Tampa, and the Yankees. How big are they going to be to step up, to win some games, get them right back into it, up in the East, and challenge maybe against the Yankees, or obviously get ahead in that wild card, and then we'll see you come playoff time. Sale's another name that's come up, supposed to be working out, throwing down in Florida. What does that mean? Can it be the Chris Sale of old? Can it be the same Chris Sale? Maybe a game or two, and he's back on the DL again. Who knows? So it's another name that's out there too. But interesting American League East right now.
Well, Don Silva says the first part of this sentence is the best part. Chris is right. Well, of course.
Oh,
we already know that.
Yeah. Thanks,
he says that July is going to be a big month for the Sox, playing all those East teams. So we're really going to see what they're made of in the month of July.
Yes, correct. Yep.
Yeah, right.
Totally agree. Good. Totally agree, Don. I mean, if you're a Sox fan, sit back on that couch, because you've got some great baseball. I mean, how about 8 games with the Yankees, 8 games with Tampa, Toronto? Look at that lineup too. So it's really going to find out what the Red Sox bring to the table, both offensively and obviously pitching.
The playoff format, having the extra wild card, you're thinking, well, is that a good thing or a bad team? I don't know. I guess it's good if you're the Red Sox and so forth. But, hey, the Yankees, they can finish 10 games ahead of you. And if you get into that playoff and you start winning, it doesn't matter. They can get knocked off. I mean, they got knocked off last year with that one-game playoff. So, I think back at the Red Sox of the 70s, how many they might have won multiple championships if it wasn't for, like, you had to win the division and that was it.
Yeah. Well, are they doing too much too fast is what the Yankee fans are probably thinking, because it's very tough to sustain what they're doing. Never mind, is there injuries or, whatever happened? Can Judge hit 60 homers? They're already talking about that. A lot of different things going on with this team. Can the pitching staff hold up? Some of these guys that, they're thinking, look what we're getting out of them this year. So, they're obviously off to a tremendous start. And they're right where they want to be. So let's see how they hang on to this lead and they don't give it up is what they're looking at.
Well, Don made another comment here. He says that the Red Sox pitching has improved. Mm-hmm. They went on a 13-game span of the best ERA in baseball at 1.84. Well, that's like Bob Gibson numbers. But again, they're probably taking care of business a little bit, playing some of these weaker teams. But It's still encouraging, because if you have a pitcher that's struggling and they're not doing well, they could still get banged around by a bad team. So it is something, obviously, they're taking advantage of playing these weaker teams, but it's still something to build on when your pitching is giving you those kind of numbers.
Correct. And I think Alex Cora is saying, okay, how what can I get from Nick Pivetta? Can he give me 7 innings? What's his pitch count? Can he only go 90? Can he go 100? Can he go 75? You know, you start to write all this down and you figure out the numbers, the statistics, the analytics, all that kind of stuff as a coach should. Never mind offensively, defensively, hitting against lefties, shifts, all the things. You try to find out all that about your team, and you do it. And the Sox have been pounding on some of those, you know, weaker teams, which is what they should be doing when they have better players, and they've done it. Now they want to say, okay, we got the upper echelon now. Let's do it again.
All right. Give us a call, if you would, at 774-762-6234 as we enter the summer months here in 2022. And I want to give a plug here to Mikey Kahn, because he's very excited to have his article in the Standard Times coming in July with the top South Coast basketball players of all time, part 2. It's awesome because you both, meaning us, have either covered or seen these well-deserving players over the years. And B-Mags is also going to do a video component with music to honor these individuals. So he said, hey, Paul and Chris, you were there to watch a lot of these plays. Are going to be unbelievable. So look for that as an article coming out with Laurie Loss of the Standard Time. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So good for you, Mikey Kahn. Good for you. I think that's great because you've seen all the players. You've gone through the stats. You've looked through. It's a lot of fun doing that. I know Buddy Thomas had done something similar to that years ago. That's always a lot of fun.
And if you like basketball, Paul, according to Mikey Kahn, looking for some officials at the Bergo Basketball Association. So if you think it's that easy, people, go see Mikey Kahn, because it's not that easy being an official. But if you think you can do it, then go out there and show what you can do, because I know he's looking for some at the Bergo Basketball Association. So talk to him out there in Dartmouth, and maybe you can, become an official and move on from that league, maybe to little leagues, maybe to high school leagues. But yeah, Paul, we've seen a lot probably of those players covering our cable TV, from New Bedford High to Voke to, seeing some Dartmouth, Bishop Stang, a lot of those players. So it'll be nice to see when that all comes out, and good for B-Mags too, doing the video of it as well.
Well, you mentioned them looking for officials, Steve Bergo at Bergo's Basketball Association. So I'm thinking, I'm looking at my screen right here. I think this guy I'm looking at right here is the best guy for the job right here.
Oh, no. No, I'm actually staying away from that. I did some umpiring in my heyday in baseball.
Yeah.
And everything's a strike, everything's an out. You take a lot of heat back there. So you obviously you just gotta, you gotta have them rabbit ears and just stay away from it, and don't listen and move your own thing. But I'm very comfortable doing what I do. So I'm happy with that. But I'll recruit for Mike if I have to, and try to get some officials, and I'll reach out to some people, and who knows, maybe he'll get a couple of guys I know.
Well, I know you did a lot of umpiring, but you've never officiated basketball before?
No, never did basketball.
I'm surprised.
I've done ice hockey and I've done baseball.
No kidding. Wow. Yeah, you know what I did? I umpired one time. Well, I umpired twice. Once when I was a teenager, and another time when I was older and my kids were starting to umpire. So I umpired with a couple of my sons a couple of times, not long. I lasted maybe a year or something like that. It was little league and stuff like that. But the very first time I umpired, I was 16, 17 years old. I had the little clicker, And so the guy would strike out, I go into the big pump out and all that, So then one time a kid came up, and on the first pitch, I rung him up. Strike 3, went into the whole thing because I still had the clicker on 3 and 2. So I banged the guy out. So the kid looked at me and goes, I just got up. He started like tearing up. I said, oh, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I apologize, So then I heard from the crowd, where the hell did I get this guy? So then I was thinking, oh, jeepers, I'm getting ripped up over here, But no, after that I did all right, and I umpired again at the DYAA. But it's not as easy as you think, you know what I mean? No, and actually, baseball is much easier than basketball. Basketball's got to be, and hockey too. But basketball, we talked to Eric Brito. I actually interviewed Eric Brito on my other show. He's a good guy to have on this show. Yeah. And I was asking him about the charge versus the block. And he was like, hey, when you really think about it, it's not that hard, because you got to look for this and you got to look for that. And I'm thinking, gee, but it's all happening so quickly. And, you call a charge or a block, the last minute of the game, you can actually decide the game. You know what I mean? So it's definitely the toughest one, I think.
Yeah, I think basketball is very difficult. I really do. I thought hockey was pretty easy. I had a good time with that. But basketball, there was times it looks like some officials, they want to call a foul on every possession.
Yeah, right.
In which, you know what, you probably could if you wanted to. And then others just let them play, and then they never call anything. So it's really, really difficult game to officiate. So I think I'll stay away from that one and just do what I'm doing right now.
My son Dylan, he officiated hockey for a while, and
Yeah.
I thought he did a great job. He's got the right temperament and everything. But the very first game he officiated, he goes, I think I'm going to let him play a little bit, and I'll call I'll call a penalty when I really have to.
Mhm.
So I'm up in the balcony. It's like a little balcony here, and like the fans for one team, it's my right, and the fans for the other team, it's my left. And I'm just kind of standing there, nobody knows who I am and everything. So all of a sudden the puck goes like, oh, boom, no penalty, like I got a center ice, boom, another thing, no penalty, So all of a sudden the guy goes to my right, says, is this guy going to call anything or what? What the heck was that? Then the guy on the other side, hey, come on, that was a penalty. Ref, what are you doing? That was a penalty. You blind? So I'm standing there and they're ripping Dylan the treads, I'm just kind of standing like, like didn't want to identify myself. But, again, then he got better at it as he went along. But, if you let something go for one team, then you can't really call it for the other team. And then, he kind of spiraled that once it went in that direction, he didn't want to all of a sudden start calling everything. Mm-hmm. So, again, there's a lot going on there that you don't think about until you actually do it.
Yeah, it's true. And it's, not to say it's a thankless job, but I mean, you're getting paid and you're trying to work hard, and at the same time, you're getting yelled at for something all the time. And, there's times that you sit back and someone comes up and says, hey, that was a great job. And the next time you can come up and say, hey, you stink. So it's just the way that it is. You got to really like it to do it. But for me, nope. My days are over for that.
Come on, can't you just picture Chris Santos going like this? That's it. I've had enough. Tee that guy up.
Mikey Kahn. Boom.
Oh yeah, is he quick with the tee?
Mikey Kahn needs like an announcer, to announce starting lineups or some things like that. I might be persuaded to do a little bit of that.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
Basket by number 12, number 20, Paul Santos. I could do some things like that. But officiating, I'm going to stay away from that.
Well, that obviously announcing is in our sweet spot because you and I both enjoy announcing. But when my son was playing hockey, Dylan played for Bridgewater State. So they had, they didn't really have anybody to do the PA system. So then one day they said, hey, we, on I think it was when they have that parent day or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
He said, we really like to have a PA announcer, right? So I said, I'll do it, So I said, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do this thing right, So I get down there, I got the PA system, So somebody gets called with a penalty. So I get in a thing, Bridgewater State penalty, number 5, Chris Santos, 2 minutes for hooking. Time of the penalty, 2 minutes, 47 seconds. Santos, 2 minutes hooking at 2:47 of the first period. I'm looking like, what the heck do they get this guy? This guy's going crazy, and the same thing, goal scored by number 5, Chris Santos. Time of the goal, 5. And I figured out so that I would give the time of the goal because most of the time you look at the clock and you got to do that translation. So I was giving it the time of the goal, 5 minutes and 18 seconds. Santos at 5:18 of the first.
So basically, you're going old school Bruins right now.
Oh yeah, I was going. So then after
no doubt about that.
So after the game, I'm like, I had a lot of fun with it, whatever.
Yeah.
So I get to the waiting room and said, hey, Santos, what the heck, man? That was fantastic. I don't know. I got rid of a lot of pent up fun over here. So it was a lot of fun. So yeah, see that you could do, Chris. That you could do.
That's something, something to think about. It's like I said, it's just something that I had done in my younger career and said,
right. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to try some officiating, but not anymore. I'd rather watch or announce or do something different, but not to run up and down. I'm all set with that.
All right, the Patriots are in the news a little bit because they're doing the OTAs and all that.
Yeah.
And we're hearing a lot of good things about Mac Jones. Now, let's hold our horses a little bit. Let's not get too excited, but Mac Jones, he worked out in the off season. He buffed up a little bit. They said he was a little kind of like I don't know, he had a little meat around the bones there. And the Pillsbury Doughboy thing, he's worked that out a little bit. He's throwing the ball farther down the field. They said he didn't have the arm strength and all that. And he's, and they simplified the offense, they say. So that guy's like Bourne out there going, let's see, what was that play again? And maybe that's what they need. Of course, the criticism is Judge and Patricia the right guys for the job? That's the thing. But as far as maybe simplifying just a little bit and getting everybody on the same page, and Mac Jones coming back the sophomore year, hey, I'm hoping that they're going to do better than everybody thinks, because the experts are looking at it and saying the AFC is tough. You got some good teams there, and right now the Patriots might be on the outside looking in. What do you think about all this?
Yeah, so before, obviously training camp opens up, the quote I got was, so far Mac Jones has some new confidence and willingness and readiness to attack the entire field. That's quite interesting. And using underrated, I shouldn't say underrated, but underperformed last year players like Aguilar and Jonas Smith. So right now in the OTAs, it looked like he was using those guys, feeling out the entire field, seeing it, and with a new confidence. And then, as you said, it looks like Patricia is going to be the play caller as well as the offensive line coach. So that will be kind of interesting. You got Joe Judge as the quarterback coach to talk with Mac Jones. So he'll probably have some influence with that. Troy Brown is with the wide receivers, and Nick Caley's, with the tight ends. So they got some guys, former Patriots who've played and have coached with them, so they know the system and try to simplify things, as you said, for these guys. So you got to think the strength right now is probably the running backs. They got some Bowles and Stevenson and Harris. They got some quick guys in White and Taylor, and they got a young kid come up strong. So we'll see where he's got. So that's 5 guys that look pretty good. And then think about that offensive line. I believe they moved Wynn and Brown from one side to the other. You add in the new kid Strange, Onwenu, and then obviously Andrews at center. So those are 5 guys that look like they'll be solid right in there for this team. But, it starts with Mac and up front, and then see what happens after that. So seems like a good start. We'll see what happens during training camp. And then the next thing you know, we'll get some preseason games, and the season will be here before you know it. So I think, Paul, we got to start looking into maybe getting some people that want to talk a little Patriots in our next couple of shows.
Hey, maybe we should do? We should go to an exhibition game. that way it doesn't, you can get in there fairly cheap, stuff like that. But anyway, talk about the Patriots, they always used to have that saying, "In Bill we trust," and Bill we trust. Okay. And the greatest coach of all time. Of course, he had Brady there, this and that. He had some great teams, of course. We've got, and Bill we trust, the great coach and all that. But he is being ripped up across the league for having Joe Judge and Patricia come in when both of them were disasters as head coach. So what do you think about that? You think the fans and some of the people that are looking in are going overboard? I mean, there's a difference between, being a coordinator or working under, say, Bill, than it is being the head coach yourself. Maybe Judge and Patricia were not so good at being head coach, but maybe they can be better, working for Belichick, like, Patricia has done in the past. What do you think? Have the fans and the other people around the league gone overboard with the criticism of Bill?
Yeah, I think they've gone overboard. I actually like it. I like when they come in and he's gotten people under him from prior. Now, you can't stop them from taking off and wanting to try to be a head coach. I get it. That's where you want to do. That's where you want to go in your career. And both of them have tried it. Both of them, fell flat. Didn't work out for him. Even McDaniels, he tried it at first. It didn't work out. He came back. And so now Patricia and Judge said, hey, well, we know the scheme. We know Bill. We like what we see from him. We trust this system. I think we're a good fit. And, offensive line guy, play caller, quarterback guy, working with Mac Jones. So I think it's, best for all 3 of them to work together and get back to, being better than maybe just, finishing up, making the playoffs. And maybe they can go even further than what they did last year.
It's always fun when the team starts out and nobody really gives them a chance. And they say, well, Joe Judge, he doesn't, and Patricia, he was terrible over here. And, Mac Jones is still a young guy and this and that. And then, hey, maybe some of these guys that were in the system the first year, maybe it'll take the second year to improve. And maybe the Patriots have, nowhere to go but up. And it would be nice to see that if, in the second year, everything kind of gels a little bit better when they've had a chance to really, be there 2 years in the system and so forth?
Well, first year is that feeling out process. The second year is we've seen some people really take off in year 2. And we've seen some people really fall back on year 2. So it'll be interesting to see where Mac Jones goes with this and this offense to get back to maybe something that they didn't do enough of last year, which is get more explosive plays in, as we said, down the field and using all of the field. We saw it at times, but very limited. Let's see how it works this year.
And how about those Cowboys? How are they going to be this year?
Well, we
can do a whole show on that one.
We go as Dak goes.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how he leads us as long as he's healthy and get back another year under our belt as well to make the playoffs. And at the same time, is this it for McCarthy? Is McCarthy gone if he does not pull this team together this year? And if he does, then will he stay? And if not, where do we go from there? And Sean Payton is a lovely name that I would love to see in Dallas personally. I don't think we're going to get it, but if McCarthy does not pull the trigger this year and do a lot better job in some game management, time management, he could be on his way out, and maybe Sean could be on his way in.
Yeah, that would be nice from the Cowboys' point of view. A very talented, excellent coach. And I hate to mention it, but Tampa Bay, they're around. They're not going anywhere. So I got to sit as a Patriots fan. I got to sit and watch Tom come out there again with a team that's got a lot of talent. And
you lost one of your boys named Mr. Gronkowski.
Yes,
and so he's gone, and it just maybe a matter of time before your next one decides that I've had enough and I will retire again as well. But right now, it's just Gronk, and so Tom's back for another year. Let's see how that all works out under their new coach now that Arians is up in higher management.
All right. Well, that wraps up our show. We'd like to take the opportunity to thank all of the comments that came in. We really enjoyed that as we covered a lot of different topics today, not just the Celtics, but obviously the Bruins, the Red Sox, and the Patriots, and we'll continue to do that. We'd like to thank our sponsors again, Lakeville Athletic Club, located at 325 Bedford Street in Lakeville. Citywide Glass, 3 locations, 425 State Road, Dartmouth, with additional locations in Taunton and Fall River. Scotty's Pub, 202 Pleasant Street in Fall River, where Chris brought some hardware home very recently. We just dropping that in, And Attorney John Seed, attorney at law, criminal defense, 156 8th Street in New Bedford, a fellow barrister, great guy, excellent attorney, former quarterback of New Bedford High. I think he hit one off the wall at Fenway Park in that state championship game. Just Balistracci hit one in the screen, but I think Seed might have hit it like 3/4 up the wall. I'll have to double check that, but almost just the fact that they got to play at Fenway.
Well, and it's a name that's historic in New Bedford.
Oh, absolutely,
definitely with football and baseball, as John Seed Sr. Has done an outstanding job, and obviously what Junior has done too.
And terrific people, by the way. Terrific people. Just class acts all the way through.
All the way.
All right. So have a great weekend, Chris. If you're out in the sun, just get that number 30 thing, and put that out. You don't want to get baked too much. Oh, he's got the cigar. So what are you going to do? Do you have to have a reason to smoke that, or are you just going to smoke it?
No. There's no. That's just the relaxing reason. There's no special reason.
All right. Well, remember, if one of the 4 major teams wins the championship, then I will promise to give it a shot.
Okay.
All right. That's it for Santos on Sports again. Thanks for your comment. We'll see you next week. I'm Paul Santos for Chris Santos. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you.